Hello, beautiful soul family. I am coming on here today, Tuesday transmissions. I used to do these a little bit ago and stopped for a while, and then I got a big nudge from Spirit to start them up again. And it really has been resistant. There's been so much resistance in me to do them. And that's why I know I need to do them. My life is definitely lived through contrast and challenge and resistance. And I can feel within my own being the deep activation of vulnerability, but also within that, this need to open my voice and open my channel and get over the fear of rejection, fear of being a weirdo or being too woo-woo or too spiritual. And really, it's a lot of it is past life stuff that I've uncovered recently that has me, hi Jenny, that has me in fear over suppression of my voice because of spiritual gifts or spiritual experiences that I've had, and in past lives being burned at the stake and seeing that and seeing myself be called a witch and many other things. And I feel like it's really important at this time on the planet to awaken the conversation of our own spiritual activation, whether that's our stories of spiritual awakening or our belief systems that we're holding that we feel like we need to, hi Cindy, suppress because it's not the norm. I really want to be on here to normalize our spiritual experience in this human body. I think it's very important at this time, and I feel that so deeply in my heart. And this even feels really vulnerable coming out and speaking about this. And you would think, well, Nicole, you've been doing this for a long time, speaking about this stuff, but it gets deeper and in a sense more personal until it's really an open channel, if that makes sense. Hi Carolina. So I brought some notes here of what I wanted to share, really about my journey. And I'd love to open up a conversation about people's spiritual awakenings. And within that, I will have a series of these videos that will tell the story of Yeshua, the story of Jesus, the story of actually my son's birth and what relates to that, and the story of Mary Magdalene and Yeshua and their divine union and their partnership that's been coming through me through quantum hypnosis. And I'll have a few of these. Today I'm going to talk about spiritual awakening and Kundalini energy and the rising of Kundalini, and then how I came into light language and what my experience was with that through plant medicine work and doing deep introspective work. Jenny's saying, proud to be a witch. 2020 is all about doing everything with intention. Yes, we all the witches need to be uniting, because really it's time for the rebalancing of the earth. And in the shamanic traditions, that is all about bringing the feminine essence, rising the feminine essence to balance out the masculine energy that has been so pervasive and so really suppressive to women for so long. Hi Lisa, how are you, sweetheart? I know you're a spiritual witch like I am too. So what I wanted to say is that we can really speak freely now, you know, and there have been times where I felt like, oh, maybe I don't want to speak freely about this stuff. Maybe it's not the right time. And the more I say that internally, the more it kind of eats up my insides. Like, I need to be speaking my authentic truth, and we have that free will choice. And moment by moment, breath by breath, we are making choices that are either for sovereignty and power, divine sovereignty, or fear, and running in that negative fear matrix, right? That patriarchal fear matrix that is so suppressive on this planet. Yay, I love your light language. Good. You'll get some light language. so I want us to be able to, as women, really come out with our stories, say them with intention, like Jenny was saying, share stories of our intuition, of our gifts, of our siddhi powers. You know, as the yogis have siddhi powers that they activate through the practice of yoga. And as a yoga teacher for 15 years, I've seen how we kind of skip over that chapter. We skip over the Vibhuti, which is the chapter about the powers of yoga. And I find that to be fascinating because, you know, we as a culture have brought yoga here, maybe about, 30, 40 years ago into the West. And we made it all about the body, which is great because our culture, we're very body oriented in some ways, right? So we want to really cleanse the body. But then we started to tap into the emotional intelligence, started to tap into our energetic intelligence and all of that, which then leads to more spiritual connection, which then starts to open the channels of divine connection with not only earth, but sky and spirit. And in that, there's a lot of powers that awaken. And now with the rise of Kundalini as a practice, which I love, they talk a lot about Kundalini rising and Kundalini awakenings. And I'll talk to you about my Kundalini awakening that I had in a minute. But it's really the powers that are innate within us, within our own energy system, that we need to tap into. And when we tap into those, we get to access those gifts, those powers, and rise as feminine leaders. And not to say this isn't about the brothers too, because I have a lot of really amazing, very deep, rich, awakened brothers, and they are very big supporters of the feminine. So I don't want to leave men out of this process, because it takes the feminine and the masculine in union to actually create the powers that I'm going to be talking about over the next couple videos. That's the Tantra, right? The weaving, the union, the divine union of masculine and feminine. And that's where the Mary Magdalene and Yeshua story comes into play, and where we start to really activate the light of truth, the light of love and unconditional compassion and love, right? So this video is about normalizing the extraordinary, claiming our sovereign divinity and the ineffable mystery of the Divine Mother is what I wrote here. Really tapping into our spiritual source and being okay with talking about that. It is not woo-woo. We are spiritual beings living in this human body. We need to be okay with talking about this stuff. So, like I said, I'll be doing a bunch of different videos about different subjects, but today will be a little bit about spiritual awakening that I had. So there's been several spiritual awakenings in my life, but one that's really potent is in 2001 when my dad died. My dad was sitting at his deathbed. My dad was dying of HIV. He was in a lot of pain. And my brother had called me and he said, Dad's dying, but I don't think he's going to die. He's not going to pass over until you get here. He just had that intuitive feeling. And I knew that too. And at the time, it was so crazy because I had gotten the lead as an actor in a play that I had really worked so incredibly hard for. And I literally had to bail out of that experience, which I was really proud that I had done that. My dad was really proud that I had made that, that I gotten the lead in that play. But I left, the play got canceled. And of course, because I flew back to New York where he was. And I decided in that moment to really tap into my intuition and feel into what he needed. And I felt like he needed a song. And since that moment, song has become a very powerful tool for my own healing because it accessed my heart in the deepest way that I could recognize, to allow my vulnerability, to allow my unconditional love to pour through regardless of all the baggage and bullshit and challenges and things that we had had, the resistances we had in our lifetime together. And so I had a song. It was a Sarah McLachlan song, and I sang it to him. And I remember seeing kind of the hollowness of his face, which is really strange because I'm thinking of Halloween and the veils being thin, and now I'm talking about this experience with my father as he crossed over. And it was really, really powerful. And I can talk about it because I've spoken to him through medium. I know he's alive and very well in the spiritual realms, and I work with him quite often and have through many plant medicine journeys and many meditation journeys and et cetera, et cetera. But he, when I first arrived into his room, he threw his arms up in the air like this, and he had a big grin on his face, and he was in a lot of pain and suffering. But he threw his arms up like this, and he smiled because he knew I was there. And he couldn't speak, he couldn't talk, he couldn't really do much of anything at that point. But I recognized what he was saying, you know. And it was so sweet. Hi, James. So sweet. So I went over and I wanted him to know that I was there to have him pass over. It was time for him to pass. But I wanted to gift him the gift of song. And so I did that. I sang to him. And it was really beautiful. I was crying. He was crying. It was really gorgeous. And after that, I left. And I knew that was the last time that I would see him in the physical realm. And it was really stunningly beautiful. And I was so grateful that I could offer that and offer so much forgiveness and compassion and love and just tell him who he was, you know. Tears, of course. And when I left, the next morning we received the phone call from the hospital that he had passed. But before that had happened, I knew that that was the phone call because my arms, in the middle of the night, I went up and I went to the bathroom, and all of a sudden my arms, without any control over my body, just floated up in the air like this. And I could feel his energy. I literally felt energy pass right through my body, all the way up through my arms, through my fingertips. And I just started bawling. And then we got the call like not too long after that. So that was my first real spiritual awakening, to feel the energy of somebody's presence pass through my system, pass through my body, and to experience that connection that we are all one, right? To experience the connection that we all are one was so extraordinary for me. I'd never had an experience like that before. And thus that started my journey of awakening to spirit. And it was the same year of the Twin Towers of 9/11, and so much spiritual, like a spiritual revolution happened after that. You know, so much spiritual talk and spiritual experiences, and I know many people have had spiritual breakthroughs as a result of 9/11, and there's many other spiritual awakening stories that I will tell you that have happened since. But that was my first foray, I would say, into spirit and into connection to the Divine Mother and to unity. And it was powerful. So my point in telling that story is that I'm sure many of us have stories like that we would like to share, but maybe we don't know how to share them. And they're important because we need to really connect to the source of all things and feel that unity and be able to connect in that realm without feeling like it's weird, you know, to really normalize it. And I know it's being normalized, but for my own being to really be able to express that and then to express all the subsequent stories since then. So the second story that I wanted to tell today was a Kundalini Awakening story. And that was in 2011, so significant years, a decade later. In 2011, I went down to Peru, and the story of how I got down there should probably be a whole nother video because it's a really long story. But I went into a ceremony with the plant medicine ayahuasca. And I had this experience where she took me all the way back in time to like the original lifetimes that I held. And she took me to being a fly. She took me to an experience of being a frog. And I was literally having these experiences like the fly, my eyes, I could see in every direction. When I was a frog, I was like literally like it felt like my lips blew up and I was speaking this kind of strange ribbity like kind of language. And I had all these experiences of being different animals, from insects, reptiles, all of this, all the way up to an experience of being a tree. And that was one of the most profound experiences I've ever had, which at that moment, and I've never had this much energy rush through me, I stood up, and the power, the energy that I connected to that was coming, it felt like from deep, deep, deep within the core of the planet, Mama Gaia, came right up through my tailbone, through the perineum, and all the way up my spine, like a rocket ship, like the end of the rocket ship, right? Like all that fire that's just like, right? But up my spine. And it went all the way through my chakra system. And I just, my whole body flooded with so much heat and so much energy. It was shocking. And I couldn't do anything but stand up. So I stood up and screamed as loud as I could. I was like, ah, you know, and it was just rushing through me like this incredible amount of lightning, the light of truth, the light of love, the light of God. And that energy was so incredibly powerful. So when I tap into that remembrance, it takes me to, again, the understanding that we are these incredibly connected source beings, like made in the image and likeness of the Divine Mother Creatrix. This planet, it is like our playground, and to bring that energy into this body and have this unique expression of that is so beautiful. And what a journey we're all on. But to get back to the story, it went straight up through my chakra system, and that was like an amazing Kundalini awakening, because it literally opened up my perception. It felt like 360 degrees. I don't really know how to explain it other than that. And the amount of clearing that happened through that process, and just standing there like the tree and feeling that rootedness and that power of that tree has always stayed with me. And it's from that moment forward that I've really been working with the Divine Feminine around confidence, power, groundedness, rootedness, embodiment, being, you know, feminine leaders on this planet, and connecting so deeply with Pachamama, because she is so powerfully the star being that is a reflection of us. We're a reflection of her, right? And so after that experience, I literally went from going down to Peru, alcoholic, drug addict, having a lot of emotional problems, a lot of worth problems, to then being in my power, seeing the light of God, seeing who I am at a soul level. You know, I activated this divine genome within my body that was like, this is your mission and this is your purpose and this is what you're here to do. And I went down there thinking I was going into a cult filled with fear. I remember being like, I have to run out of here, and being so challenged by my ego and so challenged by my shadow, and walking out literally like, you should have seen me. I was like floating on air for a while. I was like, love, light, and truth, and rainbows and unicorns, and it's all amazing. And you know, life happens, and then it starts to wear off a little bit. But the core of who I am was activated, and that has never left. And certainly, I go and I dip back into my victim or my rescuer, different shadow aspects of my being, of my ego. But I catch myself and I stay with deep connection and deep reverence, honor, and prayer with that divine source mother energy through my practice of meditation or yoga or breath work, or right now I'm sitting in front of my altar. Like I sing, I pray, I do sound healings, I do energy work, I do all of that. And that was all activated through that Kundalini Awakening. So, yeah, so I'm telling these stories because, you know, I don't often come out and tell a bunch of my stories about myself. And it's good for me to express who I am and not to be scared of what other people think about who I am. And I know that's a story that has challenged me in the past. There are definitely people who have come out against who I am in recent years, saying that I'm, you know, a charlatan, or I'm doing things that aren't in alignment with their viewpoints or their belief systems. And that's okay. You know, that has challenged me, but it is okay because that's their own belief system. And they have a right to believe what they have a right to believe. And I have a right to believe what I have a right to believe. And I know who I am. And I want to accept that and be proud of who I am, what my journey has been, what I stand for, and who I help in this world. And I know who I help, and I know the mission that I have. So it just feels good to express all that, and I'll continue to express these things in lots of other videos, as I said. And I would encourage other women who are light workers and healers and lovers and mothers and really on this planet to help other people to hold the space of spiritual ascension and awakening, because it doesn't all have to be that scary. I guess that's what I'll just say. And I know a lot of women that I work with are really scared of coming out of the closet, so to speak, and being who they are. Just being who they are. They don't feel accepted by their families, or they don't feel accepted by their partners or their work, their career. Maybe they're spiritual, but they work in a very science or math driven or masculine driven job. And they feel like they have to hide themselves behind closed doors and like do their tarot cards under their desk. I actually had a client who used to do that. She was an accountant. It's great. And she would pull her tarot cards every morning under her desk, see what her divine gift and message was for that day, and then she'd fold it all up, shove it in her desk, not tell anybody, and then go about her day with her own energetic intentions, which I loved that. But I was like, what would it be like if you could actually just introduce that as who you are and inspire other people to come along for the ride if they have that intention within them? Jenny, love you and love your stories. I love you and I love your stories, and I encourage you to come out with your witchy stories too. But anyway, so without further ado, I will do I'm going to say something. I'm going to say a prayer, and then I'm going to do some light language. So the prayer is from this book, The Sophia Code. And I'll be talking a lot about this book, I'm sure, as I read it, because I've literally highlighted every single page almost fully, and I'm only 7 pages in. It really resonates with me. And when I tell you the story of Mary Yeshua and my son's birth, then I will be talking about this book, because it's actually fully awakening and activating something within me that I know is really important. But here's the prayer of the Divine Feminine Christ. And so this is kind of the, let's say, activating prayer for today. And this made me cry. I just want to say, I said this prayer to myself. I was reading this in the bathroom in my house because my son was sleeping and my roommate was sleeping. And I was like, where am I going to read this? So I locked myself in the bathroom. I didn't really lock myself, but I was in there. And I said this prayer, and literally every time I said it, I cried my eyes out. So let's hope I don't cry my eyes out this time. But if I do, I do. The prayer of the Divine Feminine Christ. Divine Mother of all life, take me to that place deep within your womb where I can know no thing and be reborn anew. And then what she says here, which I love. In my ineffable mystery, I am the holy black womb of no thing that conceived the one source light from which all the worlds of form arise. I bestowed within you a sovereign magnetic power from which your soul assembles the atomic architecture of your human body with the quantum fabric of this pearlescent white light. Everything that you are comes from my original source and exists within my one mind. Whoa. So as I read this book and as I come out with some stories about my own spirituality, my own connection to Source, as I continue to reveal those things, when I hear that, it gives me great acceptance to know that nothing, right, not a single person that exists is not born from that innate beauty, right? That innate love, that erotic innocence, that ineffable mystery. And we do have free will. And we were granted that gift so that we could have an extraordinary life. It is up to us to co-create with Divine Mother, Source. So with that, sharing yourself, sharing who you are fully, authentically, not trying to be someone else, not comparing yourself with any other person, not trying to compete and step over, not trying to do anything other than be you, your authentic, divine, sovereign being. So, let's grab the drum. My sweater got stuck on my sound bowl. And we will do a little light language transmission. Thank you for listening to my stories. I have many stories, so I will start to tell them. Oh, and I didn't tell my light language story. I'll save that for another time. Story of light language. Earmarking that one. But light language is an opportunity to drop into your heart, and it activates really the DNA within your system to hear source code without trying to mentalize and to really be in the heart. So it's a light language, it's light codes, it's an activation, it's a transmission. Hi, Sarah. So I invite you to close your eyes, to dive deep into your sit bones, and to open up a cord of light that drops into the earth and connects so deeply with that light, the starlight I was talking about earlier, that Kundalini energy that was rising through my body. Connect your cord, your grounding cord, to that beautiful crystalline light. So you can feel your body, you can anchor your body. Your body, what a miracle your body is. It's letting you have this experience of feeling all the energies that exist. And then open up your crown and open up the crown to the heavens and allow the light to stream through that direction as well. And bring it all to your heart. Bring it to the divine union of your own heart. Kundalini, Kundalini. Just sitting in that space of the heart, receiving that activation and that transmission for the feminine rising in their love, their light, and their truth. Being that higher frequency that's holding the light, that's holding the space for this turning of the great wheel. Opening ourselves up to our really deep connection to the inner workings of the mystery. Listening to our wombs and healing all the ancestry, cutting all the cords, cutting down all these walls and barriers that keep us out of our truth and our light and our love. May you find deep peace today. Thank you, thank you, thank you for listening, for loving, and for holding space for me to open my voice and tell some stories today. Thank you so much. Jenny says, I want to listen to you on repeat, singing all day. Well, thank you. That's amazing. But if you have had an experience, because I'm always curious of the light language and what it's doing for you, please feel free to write below in the comments. I offered it recently, and someone said they just went so far out into the ethers, and got all these cosmic kind of downloads when this music, these songs, these transmissions were coming through. And I know what my experience is in my own body as it's happening, but I would love to hear from others about what they experience as well. So please feel free to write below and comment. And if you have any questions also, and I will do another video, I'll write that down, about how light language came through me and what I felt and how it's been, how I've been accessing it. And also the stories, like I was saying, of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene and others that will be coming through as well. So thank you so much for joining today, my beloved friends. I really appreciate you and this community, and thank you so much, and have a great, great, great activated, yummy, juicy day.